So, the Seattle Sounders are your 2025 Leagues Cup champions with a 3-0 win over into Miami. Adam, take me through this.
Oh, what more could you want, Maz? What a game. The Sounders have just been putting in dominant performance after dominant performance. They come up against some of the best players in the world, one of the most stacked MLS teams we've ever seen. It doesn't matter. 3-0, they took it easily. They controlled most of this game. And when there was portions of the game where Miami looked like they were going to get back in it, the team buckled down. They got a couple insurance goals. The young guys getting on the board, getting a little feisty after the game. You really cannot ask for a better final and a better day for the Sounders as a team, as a city, and as a franchise.
All right, let's hear from Brian Smetzer.
Break out the wrong one. Didn't get the
Sounders are getting their trophies.
Or at least that you could.
It's crazy that that's the one that's going to go down with that pandemic.
Questions?
Brian, I don't usually say this, but congratulations. And then can you tell us that line about defense wins championship today?
Well, it is one of my favorites, along with tough times don't last, tough people do. I actually started my pregame talk with a quote: individuals win games, but a collective and intelligence wins championships. And according to ChatGPT, that was Michael Jordan, one of the greatest individual athletes of all time. And it came true tonight because they have unbelievably talented players. I mean, we were under it in the second half. At the beginning of the second half, they were all over us, and they probably should have scored a couple goals. But our collective, the intelligence, The smarts, keeping our composure. I think that, was the reason why we won the game tonight.
Yeah, you talk about the.
I mean, look, the comment I made about Paul Rothrock prior to this game, Christina and I were sitting at dinner and we're having a glass of wine and we're talking about, I was talking about Messi and Suarez and and she said, stop talking about Miami. Let's talk about our boys. And, that gave me the impetus when you guys asked me the question in the scrum. Let's talk about our guys, because we have a great team. They might not be the names that are in the world stage, but they're certainly, talented people, talented players. They put everything into their craft. And so when I went down the list of Paul and Jackson and Snyder and, Pedro and Christian and Alex and Steph and everything, they're not household names across the world, but as a collective, they're very key. That is going to take some of the attention away from what was a great Sounder performance. So I can take that as a compliment that their players were frustrated, and frustrations led to some things that shouldn't happen on the field. But that shouldn't be the story. I'm going to shut that down. I'm going to say that the story is, Andrew Thomas having a good run of games and winning a Leagues Cup, Pedro winning his trophy, Alex winning his MVP, Reed Baker Whiting coming on in tough circumstances, Christian gunning through. That was the mysterious player that was carrying an injury. And I'm surprised you guys didn't catch that, because I never sub Christian out of games, and I subbed him out in LA, and you guys didn't catch that. And so, he gutted through an injury. And so the story of this game is not what happened after the fact. The story of the game is the Seattle Sounders. Now, what I would say to that is, afterwards, I had a quiet moment with Messi on the field, and I said, "Lo siento," and we talked and we tried to push it aside. Javier Mascherano is a great coach, and again, before the game, on the walkout, he was very complimentary of our team, and I appreciated that. Our night, he's a superstar. And he deserves all of the accolades that I can give him and that people have given him. But tonight, our collective was just a little bit better than Ada, with blood coming out of his eyes and pebbles. There was Clint Dempsey, doing whatever motion in Portland. There's Jimmy Traore, a Champions League winner, sacrificing everything for this club. We have had so many players that embody the next man up. The Boys in the Boat. I keep talking about that book. The movie is not very good, but the book is great. It's about Pacific Northwest grit. Ramon Torres. If I was in a street fight, I'd have Ramon Torres next to me, because he's going to make sure he protects me, and he did the same with his teammates. And so, Zach Scott, Golden Scarf today. There's another warrior that embodied what we are as a club. So we've had great players. This was just a great performance by a bunch of guys that were motivated. We're able to overcome adversity. We've overcome adversity from injuries and multiple games and all that. Credit to that group in there. That is a strong group, a very strong group.
All right, so there you go. You heard from Brian Smetzer and, Adam, the collective. Brian talked about that, and he said, this was a gritty and gutsy and physical, no backing down team. As much as they're a nice team, I thought they were, they were very physical when they needed to be.
Miami is a team that tends to take the spotlight with them wherever they go, and you got to take that away from them. You got to show, this is our house, this is our game, we're going to take the game to you. And they did that from the very first minute. Sounders had the first big chance of the match. They, of course, opened up the scoring through a homegrown young man in Osaze Di Rosario, and they just never looked scared of the moment. They looked ready for the moment. They looked more ready for the moment than some of the best players in the history of the game. And it was really impressive to see, Moz.
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. And how they took that, it took they hit the bully first as opposed to letting the bully hit you. Is they went on the wings. Paul Rothrock, Pedro de la Vega, both of those players I thought set the tone early in terms of their pace and what they were doing, and then the persistency came through. And Andrew Thomas, shut out.
What a tournament for him. What a moment to get some game time. He was promised all these Leagues Cup games by Brian Schmetzer, and he more than delivered. He didn't have too much to do tonight, but he's a big part of this run. He did what he needed to, and the defense in front of him blocking shots. Jackson Reagan putting the body on the line time and time again. You couldn't ask for a better defensive performance from the midfield to the back line to the goalkeeper.
Yeah, they stayed compact in all the mid blocks and then the upper block and also the back block. That was, that was the key in terms of the shutout. The other thing I thought, Brian you and I talked a little bit just about the little melee at the end there. Brian brushed it off, and you don't need to go into it, but it's something to acknowledge, and I thought it was kind of classless by Miami.
I would agree, Moz. That was the sentiment in the press box. People saying this, you don't see that very often, and it kind of comes as a shock because these are established world-class players. But at the end of the day, and this is the way Brian Schmetzer made sure to spin it in the post-game press conference, the Sounders dominated this game. They played their game, and that frustrated one of the best teams that MLS has ever seen, and that is the story right there.
And I would also say that it really shows that this game meant something to Inter Miami. For them to get frustrated and then to get dominated, that just speaks to how big of a win this is. So, again, Seattle Sounders 3, Inter Miami 0. They're your 2012 Leagues Cup champions. He's Adam Race. I'm Osvita Mariire. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening.
Thank you.